Rachel is 7 years old. She is a very inquisitive little girl. She likes to collect shongololos and save them. And she's got a couple that she saved called Sam and Maya. She loves playing outside. She's just learned to cycle and she likes everything about cycling except falling.
Mm-hmm. So Rachel the difficulty that Rachel has now does seem to have become exacerbated in about 2015, the beginning of last year, or even the year before, 2014. But it does seem to be a difficulty that she's had her whole life. So in that year, she went to school for the first time, and obviously the demands on her in terms of just longer days, no nap times, and those kinds of things were more. And we noticed that immediately that she started struggling with that. It was only the beginning of the following year that I took her back to our GP, our ordinary GP, and it was at that point that he noticed, or that he commented on this heart murmur that she has. The heart murmur actually has been there her whole life. In fact, the midwife commented on it when she was born. But at every point we were told, yes, she's got this heart murmur, but it's nothing to worry about, it's going to pass, maybe she's a bit anemic, maybe she's a bit this. But our GP at that point said, well, actually no, 7 years down the line, you can't still be saying it's going to pass. It hasn't passed.
A good way to understand it is that the factory that makes the red blood cells has gone on strike. And so she's not making red blood cells. And so what happens is that her heart, that's the red blood cells are the ones that take oxygen around the body to all the different organs. And so her heart starts to beat quite crazy because she's not getting the oxygen that she needs.
The truth is that we are now 18 months, 20 months later, we still don't have a diagnosis. So we're working with a working diagnosis, which is pure red cell aplasia. The only treatment really that we've been using is blood transfusions. But as of the beginning of this year, she is actually transfusion dependent. She needs those transfusions at shorter and shorter intervals to sustain herself. So at the moment she's getting a transfusion more or less every 3 weeks. That's not a long-term solution because of the risk of iron overload. And that's why eventually we have come to the point where she needs a transplant. She can't keep getting transfusions at this rate.
Can you tell me what your symptoms are, or how you feel when you feel like you're getting sick?
Angry and I feel like angry and stuff.
So I think the first sign is that she loses her appetite. So she just stops eating completely. She gets very, very pale. Her heart beats quite dangerously fast. And there's a risk of going into heart failure. She gets quite grumpy and stops sleeping. And it's just very emotional. When her blood level dips to the levels that it's been dipping, most normal, people with normal blood levels would be in comas at the level that she's at. It's an invisible disability because you can't see it,
yes.
but she has it. She's really struggles. It's difficult.
So our doctor, Mark Hendricks, did say at the beginning of this year that we'd need a transplant. So he is in communication with the South African bone marrow registry, and they did, even towards the end of last year, do some blood tests on her, preliminary blood tests. In her case, she was very lucky. There was one potential South African donor and quite a few international, but that's at a level which they call low resolution. So at a kind of a basic level, there are people out there that could be a match for her.
The chance of finding a donor is 1 in 100,000 chance. But there are only about 70,000 people on the South African bone marrow registry. So the chances of finding a South African donor is very, very slim. But it's actually a very simple process to become a donor. And I would encourage everybody to do it. It's you saving a life, potentially saving a life by doing very, very little, by sitting on your couch. So we're very fortunate that there are potential matches out there for Rachel. But if there weren't, we'd be in a terrible situation having to find a donor. And I think there are lots of people who are in that dire situation. So it just seems like such an obvious thing to do for people to become donors, but yet for some reason only 70,000 South Africans are on the register. The transplant is a very long process. What will happen is, and we have talked a little bit about with Rachel, is that she will get chemotherapy. They need to ablate the immunity, so that and then they'll introduce, and at that point she'll have no immunity and she'll be quite vulnerable to infections. So she'll be in isolation, and then the real danger then comes with introducing the graft, and that's the danger. The risk is that her body will reject it, so they'll put her on immunosuppressants. But she could be in isolation in the hospital for up to 3 months, and then at home she'll be in isolation again for up to 3 months after that. So she could be in isolation for 6 months, which I think will be quite a testing time. And then after that, she will get all her vaccinations again, and she'll get. I think they say that it takes about a year from the time of the transplant until she'll sort of be back to her old self. The Red Cross Hospital have been unbelievably amazing. They really are, I'd like to say the country's, but the world's unsung heroes. They've got such a combination of skill and compassion. And from everybody who's sort of been involved, from the doctors to the nurses, it's a whole team that's sort of been looking after Rachel. I also think that we've really felt the love and prayers and of our friends and family, and we count our blessings. It hasn't been an easy journey. There have been days where have been really difficult, and we know that there will be more difficult days. But I think as a family and as a kind of a community that has shown a lot of love to us, we know we're in good hands.